Guys, my name is Aamish and today we'll look at the multiplication rules of surds. Okay, so do take notes, do practice as you go along the slides. So let's begin. So guys, first let's look at the rule for multiplying surds. As I said, the rule is that the general rule is that square root of a multiplied by square root of b is equal to square root of ab. So this basically means that if we are multiplying two square roots, and if we have a times b, these could be any number. That means that we can combine these two numbers, we can multiply them and uh, put them under one square root instead of two. So, for example, if we look at question number one, it's um, square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 8. So we can write it as square root of 16 because 2 times 8 is 16. So we can write it under one square root, okay? We can multiply the number inside the square roots and then write the product of those two numbers under one square root. So if you look at question number 2, then it's square root of 2 times square root of 18. 2 times 18 is 2 times 18 is 36, so that would be square root of 36. And then you can simplify this. So for example, square root of 36 is equal to 6. Square root of 16 is equal to 4. So you can simplify, but I'm now telling you about the rule. So question number 3, we have square root of 4 times square root of 9. So you can basically multiply these two numbers which are inside the square roots. So 4 times 9 is 36. Uh, and ignore this part. So 4 times 9 is 36. And uh, we just write it under one square root. So it's square root of 36, which is equal to 6. Okay. Then if you look at question 4, we have square root of 3 times square root of 5. We can multiply 3 with 5, which is 15, and write 15 under one square root, which is, so the final answer is square root of 15, okay? And you don't get a perfect square by finding the square root of 15, so you just leave it as square root of 15. You'll get some decimal number, you don't need to write that. So the general rule is square root of a times square root of b is equal to square root of ab. Ab basically means a multiplied by b. Okay. So now let's move on. So sometimes you just need to combine two surds into one. So basically, as I said earlier, this is like more examples related to that. So as I said, square root of 4 times square root of 5 is equal to square root of 20 because we have combined these two. We have multiplied 4 with 5, which is 20. And instead of two square roots, we have one square root, but it's square root of 20, okay? And an important thing is that if the number after combining the two sets turns out to be a perfect square, carry on and work it out. A perfect square is basically like square root of 16 is 4, square root of 25 is 5, square root of 36 is 6. So basically a non-decimal number and a positive integer is basically a perfect square number, okay? So for example, square root of 49, that's 7. So you're getting a perfect. But if it's like something like square root of 15 or square root of 20, where you don't have a perfect square, uh, you'll get some decimal irrational number. So don't simplify that. But if it's a perfect square, then do simplify it. So for example, square root of 18 times square root of 2, you multiply 18 with 2, so it becomes square root of 36, and it's square root of 36, we get a perfect square number because 6 times 6 is 36, so square root of 36 is equal to 6, okay? So now I'll tell you how to work backwards with surds, okay? So remember, this is for multiplication only. So back working backward basically means like breaking down the square root into some numbers. So for example, we have square root of 48 over here. So we can basically break it down we can break it down to square root of 3 times 16 because 3 times 16 is equal to 48. So we can choose any two numbers which multiply together to give us 48. uh, so that's 3 times 16. Square root of 3 times 16 is equal to square root of 48. So you can break 48 into the product of 3 and 16. So again, square root of 48 is equal to square root of 3 times square root of 16, because it's like these two things mean the same thing, okay? uh, and 16 is a square number, so solve it. And after square root of 16 is 4, okay? uh, it's a perfect square, so square root of 16 is equal to 4, so you just write 4. So square root of 48 is equal to square root of 3 times 4. um, and then you and then the most simplified version is square root of 48 is equal to 4 times square root of 3. We just leave it like this. This basically means 4 multiplied by square root of 3, okay? So you just remove this multiplication sign and you just write it like that. uh, an important note is that you must find the biggest possible square factor. So remember, I told you that we can break it up into two numbers, uh, which multiply to give us 48 in this case. But you should be careful with the biggest possible square factor. So 16 is the biggest possible square factor, which we can get if we are to multiply two numbers which give us 48, okay? So like I'll give you an example now. So let's see the second approach. So we could also have square root of 48 is equal to 4 is equal to square root of 4 times 12, because 4 times 12 is also equal to 48, right? But so these two things are equal, because 4 times 12 also gives us 48 and 3 times 16 also gives us 48. However, I told you that you need to find the biggest possible square factor. So instead of this, if you simplify this would be equal to square root of 48 is equal to square root of 4 times square root of 12. Then square root of 48 is equal to 2 times, because square root of 4 is equal to 2. So 2 times square root of 12. And then square root of 48 is equal to 2 multiplied by square root of 12. We just leave it in this form. But the second approach is correct, but it's not a very good answer, because our aim is to leave the smallest possible square number inside the square root. So if you observe carefully, you'll see that in this case we have 12 inside the square root, which is a pretty big number. But in this case we have 3 inside the square root, which is a small number. So our aim is to leave the smallest possible square number inside the square root, okay? So you should find the biggest possible square factor and one more number which multiply together to give us 48, okay? So that's it. So guys, thanks for watching. Best of luck for your exams. Please like, subscribe, click on the bell icon, comment and share the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.